Hey everybody, welcome to today's video. We've got breaking news, the airspace closures in Venezuela. What does that mean? What's going on with that whole situation? Why is the airspace closing now? And what does this mean for this potentially being the canary in the coal mine, the cascading effect of this conflict actually kicking off? We are as close as we've ever been. And when you see airspaces start to close, this should make everybody's hair in the back of their neck stand up, get a little bit of that tingle going on when you understand why that's happening. So massive alerts going out to U.S. citizens to get out of the country, maybe some types of NEOs, which is a non-combatant extraction operation going down, getting everybody out of there. The embassy's been closed since 2019, but today we're going to dive deep into what this airspace closure means. I've got a lot prepared for you, so I know you're going to love it. We're going to dive into all of it, and then we're going to end with the actual threat itself in Venezuela that could actually take down airliners, which again, when you have a dictatorship, when you have people that have an itchy trigger finger, you got to make sure that you keep airliners away, right? Because everything they see fly past their airspace, they might think it's a fighter jet or a B-52. And yeah, they're nervous right now. And again, they're backed into a corner. They've got an itchy trigger finger. So again, this is kind of a public service announcement as well. If you're a pilot out there, do not fly near Venezuela, okay? Do not fly near Venezuela unless you've had the Secretary of War tell you to. So unless you've got direct orders and you're in an F-18 or an RC-135 or a B-52 or a B-1 or an F-35, do not fly near Venezuela, okay? All right, let's go ahead and dive right in. So I want to first, we're going to get to these in a second. Actually, I kind of teased these to you guys, but I want to save this to the end where we actually talk about the missile systems. But I want to start just by kind of showing you what the zeitgeist is feeling right now and how this kind of could have led up to the conflict, how it did lead up to the conflict in Iran when the U.S. struck Iran, but now how this could be the version of that when it comes to this situation itself. So obviously, we've got that breaking news. We've got that U.S. ship that intercepted the Russian oil tanker. We know that. And then this is a lot of the rhetoric that I'm seeing. Like the United States could be ready to launch a new military operation in Venezuela, and this is just of a few hours ago. And that's supposedly coming from an official with official knowledge of the matter. So supposedly, right? We don't know for sure. And then obviously a lot of rhetoric coming out about, the Venezuelan president Maduro not wanting to go into this conflict, obviously. So, and then we've got these kind of war painting style, standoff images coming out. So tensions are hot and tensions are heating up in a way that we've never really seen before. And then here's something interesting that I wanted you guys to know about, because again, when it comes to these conflicts, right, we had that Russian oil tanker. Conflicts have ripples, right? Nothing happens in a vacuum, okay? It's like they say, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, right? The butterfly effect, kind of what happens. And this is a ripple of that. So this is, again, not fully confirmed, but I would not be surprised. This makes a lot of sense to me. It looks like there's 120 Russian military advisors in Venezuela training the Venezuelan forces. And that makes a ton of sense to me. And a lot of that comes with the package deals of buying the hardware from Russia. So if you buy naval assets, you buy you buy those Su-30s, those Su-30 jets that we've seen, you buy those. And then, yeah, Russia's going to add in a few advisors to go. And yeah, likely fly a few sorties for you if you need it. Russia's like, hey, I know we're here as advisors, but we're going to go ahead and fly all the missions today, okay? Just because fighter pilots want to fly. And, having these advisors in the country, it just complicates things. So instead of Russia pulling these out, they're probably actually adding more in because of the partnership they have with Venezuela when it comes to Russia sending them massive amounts of refining products for the petroleum in Venezuela. There's very sulfuric petroleum in Venezuela. It has to be refined, and Russia's got the perfect products to refine it. So they're not going to give this one up easy. This partnership will not be given up easy. So again, a lot of that rhetoric coming out, which is very interesting. And then here's some specifics on the actual airspace closure itself. So to me, this is a very interesting spot. It looks like all the airspace closed in this flight information region. So this is the outline of that airspace, kind of extends off the coast. And again, kind of more towards Caracas. They've got a little bit more of that space where they're basically saying that, hey, anything coming in this airspace is potentially a threat to them. So again, itchy trigger finger people, you don't want to be flying anywhere around there. So airlines have suspended Caracas flights after that FAA warning, and the military risks basically saying, hey, any jets flying in this area are potential targets. So very, very ominous for any airliners to go anywhere close. So again, public service announcement, airliners, do not go close to Venezuela. Just trust me on this one, okay? And as you can see, looks like basically there's kind of the discussion of national defense airspace. So a swath of airspace off the coast of Puerto Rico is now being called national defense airspace. So a lot of reasons to do that, but likely there's going to be high value targets, high value assets that are going to be in there operating. You know, if it was up to me, I would have expats, I would have Annual Furies flying in close to Venezuela to do intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. And those are new platforms. The expat is a new platform. I'm gonna go ahead and pull one up for you real quick. I love this expat. To me, it's gonna be the future. So the future is gonna be the expat, and having the ability for that vertical takeoff and landing and all the different systems that can integrate in this are just something that you're going to want to have. But when it comes to actually what this airspace is for, obviously we don't know exactly, but with high value assets in the area, you know, all bets are off. So a lot of it could be just like RC-135s, B-52s, B-1s, very high profile platforms that could be in that airspace. But now let's get to exactly, we're on Flight Radar, great website, check them out for sure. Now, this kind of gives you guys an idea a little bit more of the airspace here. So the Maquete FIR flight information region here. Here's Venezuela. Caracas is up here in the north, right along the coast. And then as you can see, this section of airspace is relatively large and extends very far north towards Puerto Rico. So this is essentially the notification zone of Venezuela is how I would think of this. So the FAA covers the Maquete flight information region. Note that NOTAM from the FAA covers the Maquete flight information region. All right, and that information region, that's how traffic control authority is divided around the entire world. And they're not national boundaries. That's one thing to think of. That's not something that's saying Venezuela owns all of that airspace. So Venezuela includes all of Venezuelan land and extends into the Caribbean Sea approximately 350 miles north of Caracas. So 350 miles north of Caracas is where that flight information region is. So that doesn't mean that Venezuela owns all of that. There's national laws. I think it's something small. I think it's like 20 nautical miles off your coast, maybe a little less. But this is actually real time going on. I want to show you guys here what's happening on Flight Radar. So not a lot of flying going on directly over top of Venezuela. A little bit, looks like we've got, this is almost, let's see, no call sign on this one. Yep, transport planes, no call sign. That's got a little radar dish on top though. It's an MD-82. Okay, so that's a passenger plane. And then that's a privately owned, Maduro's mistress is being flown away from Caracas. He's like, hey, get out of here. My wife's coming. And here we go. So not a ton of air traffic. Again, that's good because this NOTAM's been issued. Out here, what do we got? Cessna citation. Man, interesting. If you're out flying in this area right now, you got some cojones of steel. There's a lot of naval activity, A320 Airbuses from JetBlue, okay? So again, things like that, that's what you would want to watch out for, flying that aircraft anywhere close to the coast here, because S-300 missile operators, and that's a very capable missile, can reach out to about 150 nautical miles, and they might just be having an off day, or their training wasn't great. This is why you stay away from war zones and airliners. It's just something that you really got to focus in on and not get lazy about as a pilot. So again, though, all this big swath here is staying relatively clear, so flights are diverting around it, and that's good to see. I really enjoy seeing people listening to these NOTAMs. It's very important. Very important to do that. And here's the actual NOTAM itself. So from the Federal Aviation Administration, I'll give you guys a quick breakdown here. And let me check this. Yep. So the breakdown, operators are advised to exercise caution when operating in the Maquete flight information region. That's that big swath right here. That's this region, right? Not Venezuelan property necessarily. Some of it is, but not all of it. At all altitudes, due to the worsening security situation and heightened military activity in or around Venezuela, threats could pose a potential risk to aircraft at all altitudes, including during overflight, the arrival and departure phases of flight. So yeah, that makes sense. I mean, again, any type of blip that's going to come up on these S-300 radars is going to pop up as soon as that aircraft gets within that radar identification altitude. Okay, that radar identification altitude, that RIA, I love acronyms, you guys know that, so I got to throw in as many as I can. So as soon as you get to that, boom, it's going to appear on that operator's scope. And now, again, alarm bells could go off. Hey, new contact, new contact. All right, what is it? What is it? Is it being misidentified as a fighter? That's why you got to be careful for the approach and departure and anything close to it, like Colombia, other nations nearby, anything taking off, in any region near this is a part of this threat for sure. So including the overflight, the arrival departure phase, and or airports and aircraft on the ground. Airports and aircraft on the ground. Interesting. So is something going to be targeted on the ground? Is there some intel we don't know about? I mean, drones targeting aircraft on the ground, that's definitely probably the main thing that would target aircraft on the ground. But again, guys, very interesting, right? Because we got to read between the lines, right? Because the FAA can't just come out and say, this is exactly why we're issuing this NOTAM. They're getting information from the Department of War, from the State Department. They're telling them the different threats that could be in the area. So again, that's really ominous. Airports and aircraft on the ground. Refer to the background information notice for additional information on threat concerns. Yep, got that. And then 72 hours advance notice to the FAA so they can communicate. And there's that Venezuelan airspace. Again, looks like that big kind of hole right there. People are avoiding that FIR. They're flying around it. And then they're getting into Caracas that way through different corridors. So then the F-18s basically have their own corridor. The F-18's corridor is all this. The F-18s are like, this is our corridor. Everyone else go around it. So that shows you guys kind of the precursor to what could be going on. And then again, the S-300 missile battery. All right, I want to talk just a little bit of background on that. But before we get to that, let's talk about a little bit of the similarities between Operation Midnight Hammer. When did that airspace shut down? And are we seeing right now this airspace shutting down because it's imminent that there's going to be hostilities? So the timing for the Iranian closure was just a few days before the strikes. The strikes were on June 22nd. June 17th is roughly when the airspace kind of started cascading and closing down. All right. Here, the initial call to close the airspace happened 2 days ago. So again, we're getting close to that window, right? We're getting close to that 5 days. So we could be seeing hostilities any day now. And that could be just because there's an increased threat, or it could be because there's an impending kinetic attack that's going to be coming from either side. We don't know. Again, you got the wolf backed into the corner, Maduro in Venezuela, $50 million bounty. You never know who around him is going to cash him in, right? Because when it comes to these regime change wars, there's going to be people that are going to take the place of that ousted president. And Maduro's basically, the number one target, a $50 million bounty. And he's got lieutenants, people around him. Who knows if they're compromised? You don't know. But again, those strikes could happen at any minute. That's why right now we're in crunch time. All right. And then the restriction for the Iranian closures, that was a full closure by Iran for security purposes. But they were also launching multiple drones back and forth at Israel. So we know that. Here, in this case, it's a U.S.-driven advisory, and it's warning of hazards leading to voluntary airline halts. No Venezuelan decree yet, but it's an equivalent operational shutdown. All right, and again, something also that the U.S. has said is because of reduced GNSS. Right, so quickly, I want to talk about that. So when it's GNSS interference, so basically global navigation system, satellite interference, GPS jamming. Again, these acronyms are beautiful. I love them. But GPS jamming is picking up along the coast. Again, Russia's there giving them advice on how to GPS jam Caracas. They want a ton of GPS jammers around that area. So it's not only dangerous because of the kinetic threats that could be coming out, like with those missile batteries, but it's also dangerous because it can throw off the avionics in airliners. And now you run an airliner out of gas because it completely diverts it while it's in the middle of the ocean, tells it to go in a corkscrew. There's a lot of different things that can happen. So a lot of this is also because of GPS jamming. So I just want to throw that out there. And then, geopolitical trigger. Back to the Iran thing. So that was the U.S. Basically seeing like Iran, Israel are about to go like gloves off, right? So now it's the heightened Venezuelan military presence. Obviously, they're calling back lots of their troops. They're basically activating everybody in that country, and it shows a lot of instability, and you never know who's going to be in charge of those S-300s at any given moment, right? The regime falls. Now you've got, 20 dudes that storm in to the radar operating system of the S-300. They shoot somebody falls on the control board, and 6 S-300 missiles launch out. This is the crazy stuff that could be happening. So I just want to prepare you guys for, the geopolitical aspect of all of this. So what's the strategic signal? Because really it all comes down to the strategic signal for this. So it's a preemptive move to control the skies, basically in both situations. But here in the Venezuelan situation, this is an implicit U.S. warning, guys. This breaking news is implicit that escalation is now being risked. It echoes, it's a little more of a hard closure than the Iranian one. The Iranian one was kind of a slower, soft closure, but now this is clear that there is potential kinetic effects that could happen to you as an airliner if you fly through this. I mean, as a military jet, you got to be on your game. You bet, the Navy boys and gals that are out there getting ready to blast off these carriers, the USS Ford, they are on their game in a way that, we've probably never seen before. They're ready for this. So very heightened situation there. S-300 missile battery. Quick overview of that bad boy. So again, and this is the main reason why the airspace is closing. Okay. So yeah, GPS jamming is important to go up against, but or to prevent from happening to an airliner. But this, you don't want people dying. So again, this is the defense system. I should give us a little breakdown of that. Let's see if that'll pull up. Oh, that's a Russian website. We've already got Russian hackers saying, nope, not going to happen. All right, so there we go. Warzone, great website. Check them out. So again, you've got the cab here. So you can operate this thing from inside, but then there's also operators back here in the back that are operating as well. And then there's actually another cab. So it's basically a trailer where it operates it a little bit more precisely. So more systems involved. But again, S-300... I want to show you guys this right here. This is the ominous part. So this back part, if we can get a good view of this. Yeah, here we go. So this is a radar. So that thing's going to pop up, and that is a phased array radar. Again, you don't know the credibility of who's operating these things. So you don't know who's behind the wheel at any given moment. So you have to be prepared with any type of option. You got to be prepared with military options to protect airliners. You got to be prepared just to keep them out of the airspace, because when these things turn on, you don't know the qualifications of those that are operating them. So again, very capable system. You can't discount this system. Oh, this is cool. This kind of shows you like a little breakdown. See if we can get this. Yeah, so this is a little breakdown of how the system actually works. So you've got multiple launchers. These are the launcher trucks. And then you've got this bigger radar here. And then this is an advanced radar here. That's an ASA radar, so phased array radar. This one's probably going to be more traditional, spotting long distance threats. This one's a phased array where they can basically point it where they think stealth aircraft are coming from. They think they can pick up stealth aircraft. I beg to differ, but hey, let them think what they want, right? Everybody's got a plan until the enemy punches you in the face. So we'll let them continue to think that. But again, that's a really great depiction of the combat configuration of what you're going to get with that. So again, guys, I'll keep you posted as this develops. If you are a pilot, do not fly through Venezuelan airspace, right? Even if you're flying for a major airline that should know they shouldn't be doing that, you got to be the last line of defense to make sure that that doesn't happen. Because we got to protect our skies. We got to protect the people that are flying. We got to protect the flying public. And again, this could go kinetic any day now. Regime change could happen any day now. We're seeing that cascading effect. And I'm going to basically be here ready at any given moment to keep you guys posted every single day. So tune back in. I'll try to get these things out before about 10 a.m. Mountain Time, US time. So definitely check that out. And then if you guys want to say hi to me more, go to X, follow me there. Go to Instagram, follow me there. And best compliment you can give me, as you guys know, as I've talked about before, just go ahead and watch one of these videos that pop up right here. When you watch those videos, it helps the channel grow exponentially, and I would greatly appreciate it. So thanks so much for being here, guys. I'll keep you posted as the situation develops and as more breaking news comes out. Have a great day. We'll see you in the next video. This is Ryan, also known as Max Afterburner, signing off.